Hi there, my name is John Fair, the owner of I-Beam Sliding Door. Today we're going to go through the assembly of the 100 Series sliding door kit. Let's get started. Starting out, I want to show you all the parts and pieces that come with the 100 Series sliding door kit. We have variables with the track, the face mount or top mount track, the Ultra Glide trolleys, all your mounting hardwares, your guide rail brackets, your center guide, your latches, your handles, your interior latch, exterior handles, your mounting hardware, all the frame hardware, latch rods, and all the frame pieces, your bottom C-channels, which are pre-drilled and punched, ready to assemble, to make it easy to assemble on site. The setup, this is temporary setup in my warehouse, showing the opening of the building. Okay, so we're going to start here by showing you how to actually measure or determine what size door you need to order. So basically it's as simple as inside dimension, inside the opening. And what I need is from the bottom of the header down to the floor. Now you probably need somebody with a ladder, somebody up there to hold it. It's that simple. We need the exterior dimension. So that's going from the bottom of the header down to where the bottom of the sliding door, the door's on the outside of the building. Here's our temporary setup we're going to use today to show this, but it's all the same whether it's a post frame building or a steel frame building. Still need the dimensions from side to side, header to floor. Now down here, this is showing a lot of farm buildings, a lot of sliding door situations. They use a 2-inch angle. So this would be representing our interior floor and our exterior approach, or what I consider right here, this outside part is the threshold. So technically I need a dimension from the header to the threshold. That is where the door slides. Now, if you give us dimension to the floor, that's fine. I just need to know where the bottom of the door needs to be in relation to the floor. So typical new construction guys go to grade, which grade is the bottom of the treated board on the outside. So there's a lot of different ways to skin the cat here. We just need to know which side you're skinning. We need to know what our dimensions are, because we don't want to send you a door that's pre-cut, pre-drilled, that's going to be too short, too wide, too long, too short. So it's crucial to explain where you're measuring on your opening. So this is representing the header, whether it's a gable truss or LVL, beam, whatever header. This could be either wood or steel, box tube, I-beam, whatever. 12 gauge is obviously easiest to mount our track to. So this could be welded to an I-beam. But anyway, so wood, so you're going to want a variation of track that we have is obviously the face mount track, and then also the top mount track. So the face mount track, typically through the opening, you'd run a 2x8 head track board. Then this gets mounted. The top of this is 1.25 inches or 1/4 inch from the top of the 2x8. That gets lag bolted in the pre-drilled holes every 20 inches in the track. So then beyond, you would run a 2x4. So this is your jamb here. So then beyond on the wall, you'd still need to run a 2x8 or something to carry the load. But for the track board, you would use either a 2x4 or 2x6. Just makes it a lot smaller profiles, less lumber, less material. But through the opening, you'd want the 2x8. That way, when the door is shut, it's not coming against, but it's closing up that opening. Whereas the 2x4 gives a lot more variable, a lot more room for forgiveness, and just don't need that kind of structure beyond the opening. So then, I want to show on the steel frame setup, we have these wonderful little Z brackets that you would just use We can supply you with 14-1 screws, and you would zip screw those into the face of the C, and we can determine where that needs to be mounted as well. And then you would mount this in accordance to the pre-drilled holes on the track. So this would be mounted to the C, and then you would mount your track to that. And that would use a number 14 screw as well. So this is the face mount setup for a steel frame building, and this is a top mount setup for a post frame. Now obviously you can do face mount for post frame, but we typically, I don't hardly ever get into top mount using the Z bracket and the steel frame setup. So, and then we're going to show, while I'm up here, the trim. And Mike, you want to grab a piece of top mount trim profile? So this is trim here, track cover. This is the piece of track cover that covers the track, goes back to the header. And we also have a profile for the face mount. Now we do not manufacture the trim themselves. We only manufacture the hardware. Okay, so this is the face mount profile. These are all in the assembly manual, all the trim profiles. So this is our top mount profile. So that goes over the top mount, whether it's a steel header or a wood header. This is the same profile. So, okay, so this is your typical post frame setup. This is a 3" by 1.5" jam board. Now you can run your girts all the way to the opening and run a 2x2 over the top. If you need something structurally sticking out here, because obviously everything needs to come out 1.5 inches for your rib steel that's going to get fastened here, because your door is going to hit the ribs. So everything is furred out 1.5 inches, and then we got this profile trim here. It's just a standard sliding door jam trim. I know companies use like a square edge. I'm not a fan of that. I like that 45 degrees, so when the door closes, it doesn't catch, especially 20 foot tall with 40-mile-an-hour wind against it. Doors are designed to run 40-mile-an-hour wind. So you get that square edge. When you go to shut it, it hits that edge. It's just a lot easier to actually, it's cheaper, faster, better. So why not? So this goes over the jam like that, fastened here, fastened there, simple. Okay, so we're going to start by laying out parts and pieces. So we always build the frame, and if you can, all the metal, sheet metal, fully assemble the door panel. The door panel, which consists of the top and bottom C channels, your verticals, and all your girts. So we usually start with 4 sawhorses, 1 each corner at an angle. So you can lay your top out, bottom, your verticals. We usually start with the top towards the building, towards the hole. So that way we take the whole panel, we lift it right into the trolley. So you're going to want to start with the top has got the big holes for the trolleys. So these are where the trolleys mount, and that goes down or towards the inside of the door. And then you want to lay your verticals out so you can, they're all pre-labeled with a T and a B. So T obviously is top, B is bottom. So you'd lay this, that way you can lay your brackets and pre-mount all your brackets with the number 12 screws. It's all labeled in the bags. Assemble your brackets to your verticals first. So then on the bottom, pre-drilled hole. So this bigger hole is for the latch rod. So this is going to be on the active side. So this is going to either slide and be your, this is set up to where the door is on the right side looking at the building on the outside. So this is the right panel because the latch rod goes through this hole, and that's what locks the door shut. Okay. All right, so I'm going to show the assembly basically. You got to make sure when you put these brackets on, you got to, so when you flip it up, you got the T and the B still showing outside. So this is the side that the metal and the trim goes on. This is the inside. So when you put these bolts in, I mean, it doesn't really matter, it's not crucial, but I prefer the bolt going through the top and the nut on the inside. And this gets 4 bolts. These are 5/16 by 3/4 bolts. Everything's pre-drilled, and like I said, pre-drilled and punched. All right, so before tightening these up, you want to make sure that you're flush on the back side when you tighten that up, because there's some slop there. And do the same on all 4 corners. Wow. Okay, so once we get the corners all fastened and ready to go, now we're ready for the interior lateral. So keep note, this is going to be a note on this one here, on the bottom lateral girt we call. It's a 3.5-inch I-beam. It's got a hole in it. That's for the latch rod. And that hole goes towards the inside. There's a latch rod. We'll show you that assembly in a minute. So that latch rod goes through this bottom girt into the bottom C. And then that goes into, it gets screwed in through the end extrusions of the girt through the vertical into each one. Okay, now that we got all the lateral girts put in, now it's time to put the latch rod on. So these come with 2 bolts that go in the pre-drilled vertical rail on the either side. So you want that on the latch side that you got the hole for the bottom C in. So that gets, and you want to loosen up all the bolts on the whole mechanism so everything can be moved around. Then you want to go ahead and tighten up these 2 side bolts first. That's just a 3/8 socket, and 3/8 as well. And you want to orient this so the hole, there's a left and a right. So the hole on this is towards the top. So then the rod is the right length when it's open and closed. So I already took the cotter pin off of the side that the rod goes in. I'll go ahead and tighten everything up. And then slide the rod in. And then with pliers, just tighten the cotter pin. All right, so now that the latch is working, next we're ready for metal. So we're going to mark out where all the laterals are at. So how I do that is visually from the inside. I don't like to see the screws. Not a big deal, but so if my height is 5'10", I don't know, average is 6 feet. So you got to watch these webs on these I-beams. You can't screw right in the middle, so you got to go above or below that web. So I always, on the bottom, I go below. And then the next one up, I usually go above on the next one. We're getting in that 6-foot range. So above there, and then all the way on the next ones, each one on up, I go above on the upper half of the I-beam, and I mark both sides. And these are basically orientation lines for chalk on each panel. Okay, now that we got the door framed, we're ready for metal and trim. So what we did was we cut the ripped the ribs off of each side, each sheet here. So it's a 6-foot panel, so it works out. Typically you have to measure out, make sure the ribs line up. So cut the end rib off, and then I cut the base trim so it fits up underneath the bottom of the sheets. So then what I do is I line up this first sheet here, get it so it's centered in the vertical, and then make sure that then I go ahead with the screws. As always, you want to go on the proper side of the rib on assembling the siding. So, and then on the bottom C, you want to make sure the screws go up as high as you can. You don't want to go too high, you'll miss the C. but you don't want it to go down here because then we got guide rails going in through here. So you want clearance for them guide rails, and I recommend a 1-inch screw for your self-drill metal-to-metal screw. So we'll go ahead and start this here. We'll get the bottom done first, and then what we'll do is we're going to square the door panel, so that way the door panel is perfectly square. So we're just measuring angle. I have no idea what the geometry number is, doesn't matter. It's 11 foot 7 3/4, so go over there. We're just gonna make sure each side's the same. And it's not, so we'll get it tugged in square. There we are, all right. Next then, we're gonna take chalk line. We're going to chalk these marks across, and these are at the right height. Everything's perfect, so that way screws are going to go in the right spot, not going to miss. Okay, so this is the vertical frame cover trim. It goes over the end of the frame. That's what encapsulates cut edge, encapsulates the end, really finishes it off, makes it clean. So this is the profile vertical frame cover. It's in our manual. Obviously, you know, it's made by the same company that makes roll form metal. So I want to show you here. Mike, you want to grab me a square? I'm going to show you how to cut the bottoms and tops of this. So the length of the piece, obviously you don't get them pre-cut to length from the manufacturer. So you got to cut them to length. So I make the trim the same length as the metal. The length of the metal is 1 inch shorter than the length of the out of the frame. So that's what I made it. So then you want the bottom to be notched so that the guide will pass through here. So I cut this an inch up, and the back side an inch up. Like that. And then I'll show you how to do the top. Top, very simple. You basically go 3 inches. It's not going to show so good black on black, but you'll get the end result. And then I cut that at a 3-inch angle. You want to cut at an angle because this is a slide. You don't want a square cut there as this door slides. It just folds that trim and drags and makes all kinds of noise. So now we're ready to install. This simply pops on the bottom, hook it in the bottom, hooks in the top. Same thing here, you want to stay up. You don't want to go down the bottom, so you don't want the screw head hitting the guides. Screw the top. I usually go about 1 inch down from the top. Just like we did the rest of the top there. This is always a kind of a crucial situation. Sometimes the metal manufacturers don't bend this perfect. So you gotta, this doesn't come loose on the inside, just to hold that from coming loose on the back side. So before you put the trim on the latch side, there's this latch mechanism down here, so we got to drill a hole here. So I marked that right in the center of that hole on the mechanism. And I got an 1 3/8 reamer step bit. Okay, now we got the trim installed. Now we're ready for the handle. I always like putting a handle on the ground. It's just so much easier to mount versus gravity, fighting gravity. So big thing is square shank and square hole on the mechanism. So key is you got to orient the handle so when it's open, the handle is all the way, when it's closed, the handle is all the way 90 degrees horizontally. And when it's open, it's all the way 90 degrees horizontally open. So there, that's incorrect. So we got to take it out and turn it 90 degrees. So now the handle should be oriented properly. So when you're open, the handle is 90 degrees open. When you're closed, the handle is 90 degrees closed direction that way. So now you take the rubber gasket and then the filler block, the plastic filler block, and that slides, the gasket goes against the metal, 14 by 2.5 screws. There's 3 of these. Now you got to be careful. You don't want to over tighten this because it binds on that square shaft. So you got to work with it a little bit to get it to where it's not binding, so it's easy to rotate. Now see, that's stiff, so we got to tighten up. There we go. Just a little bit more. Oh. Ooh, yeah. Now, that's nice and easy. That way, any old person or young person, weak person can operate this door. Moves nice and easy. We got to have handles. This is our standard powder coated. We got a keyed option. You can key, lock it from the outside. Also, we got a stainless option. And we also have a stainless keyed option. Okay, so this is the top trim profile. I've already bent these ends over. Just basically, this is the width of the frame. This top trim profile is last page of the manual with all the other trim profiles. Basically just fold each end over. It's the width of the door. And then this back leg here actually tucks in the inside of the C. So you can actually put this on after the door's hung. But then you want to drill a hole or notch a hole where these trolleys go. So I just line that up. Just use my 1 3/8 step bit. Just stitch each rib. Now, if it's a really wide panel, you're going to want, on the splices, if you have splices, you're going to want to caulk this, because this is water shedding, and you're going to want to caulk the splice. I try to go as full length as possible. Get 20-foot pieces, get as big as pieces as you can, that we don't have to splice it. It's just problematic to have to caulk it. So, all right, this is T-trim profile. This is only for split sliders when 2 doors come together. So a single door doesn't need this. It's a piece of T-trim, same thing, last page of the manual. Cut the length, same length as the panel of metal. So butts down on the top of the base trim. Then it tucks in underneath the hat trim, and then I put a fastener at every girt. Fasten that. All right, then we slide trolleys in the track because we're getting ready to hang the panel. And then while I'm here, sliding trolleys in, I just tack this end stop temporarily for now. We will adjust that when we get the door hung. Okay, so you want to start, what I like to do is hang the doors when the trolley's already in the track. We already showed that to you, sliding those in. So, got big holes here. You could start by having the bottom of the door out. I usually have the lift closed, so that way you can actually use the lift to help lean it in there. And then have Mike and Brennan come in slowly with the door frame. Hang on, Brennan. Come on in. Hang on. So that way you get the trolley bolt sticking through. and then the eccentric washer, and the nut. Now the eccentric washer is made to rotate. So this will give you the in and out adjustability. So this goes up in the big hole, around the trolley bolt, and the nut, and then you want to adjust this up so it's an inch off the floor, the bottom. We'll worry about fine tuning it until we get the other panel on. So we'll go ahead and hang that other panel, and then we'll come back and adjust both sides to handle, to get them to line up, make sure the jambs are flush, everything lines up perfectly when they operate. Okay, so we temporarily kind of rough got them set. They're moving, but it's not perfect. The top touches before the bottom. It's out of square to the jamb. So now we got to play the game of making sure everything lines up. So first thing is I got a gap at the bottom, so I got to tighten this up here. I got to bring this side up. Got this nice extended long impact socket, works real good. So that looks absolutely perfect. So we're beautiful there, beautiful there. Our reveal is perfect there. So now that we got our height all set, and what do you got clearance on the bottom there, Mike? I like to have at least a half to 3/4 to 1 inch. Inch, good inch. Okay, so that's ideal. We don't want rocks and things causing havoc and dragging. So we can go ahead and double nut them. So there's a nut on the bolt there. So there we got the height set. Now this eccentric washer, we can adjust it in and out. So 1-inch wrench or a red crescent wrench, you can actually take it and you can turn this washer, and I don't know if you can see it on this camera, you can actually see the door coming in and out. Well, in the sliding door business, rubbing is not racing. Doors need gaps. If you want a tight seal, put a seal on it. The door frame itself does not seal. Remember that. I know you're going to have people and farmers complain, customers complain, oh, I see daylight. Well, seal it up with a seal, not the frame. Because if you seal it up with the frame, it rubs, and it's any 30-mile-an-hour wind against it, it's horrible. So, got to have a gap, and if you want it sealed, use a seal. And then once you get that adjusted, I like to have about a 3/8 to 1/4 inch gap, about perfect. I'm used to 20-foot panels, not 6x8s. So you put 2 screws in that, each one to keep that from rotating, and that's it's a perfect deal. Okay, so setting the end stop. Go ahead, Mike. I got it set a little too far in, so Mike's going to push that door right flush to the opening, so it pushes that end stop. Are you flush there, Mike? All right, go ahead and close it a little bit. We tighten that down with 7/16. Go ahead, Mike, tie it again. Perfect. Okay, this is the next step is the guide rail. This goes on the wall beyond the opening. It's a 2x2 steel, 14 gauge angle, and it comes, you assemble it with the bracket and 3-inch carriage bolt and nut. So I temporarily just finger tighten these for now on sawhorses. That way it's easier to mount on the wall. Okay, so next is setting the door guide. I'm not a big fan of our situation here, being the concrete. Typically this is grade. Situation like this, I just bolt it into the floor, but I don't want to put more holes into my floor. So I'd prefer this to be more centered of the bottom C of the door. but it's just the situation we're in with inside. Typically in a post frame or steel frame application, this goes to the footing wall. If there is pavement here, if there's concrete here, eliminate the bracket, eliminate the bolt. You just drill a hole and run a 6-inch anchor in there and then cut the top off. This situation here, it's a lot simpler to omit the bracket, but typically on most applications, there's no concrete. It's usually gravel or grass beyond the opening. So you can lower this down, and then once you get the height set, you run the lag into the either concrete or the bottom treated. And then this is fully adjustable, so I like to have this adjusted out, so that way it's typically about a 1/4 inch from the end of the bracket, and I tighten it down with a 3/4 inch wrench. So that way, this needs to be lower. Obviously we can't just because they're set up, but that way this then doesn't bang into the wall when you operate the door. So, okay, next we're going to show the latch mechanism assembly. So this is your jam latch and your ramp, and then your spring-loaded mechanism. So I usually start with this on the jam, and I set this so that way this goes to the jam. When the door opens, it's not going to hit the handle. You want your latch to be up here so it clears the handle. Next, we're going to install the jam latch. That goes on the jam inside on the building. And next is the center ramp. And that goes right in line with that latch. So when you go to open the door, that auto locks the jam, just like that. So now the door auto locks the jam. So when you go to disconnect the latch, lift the latch up, it comes off that handle there. It's nice and smooth and easy. And that's what holds the door open. So that when you want to close it, this ramps it over. And that auto locks the jam. That keeps the jam tight then when this is latched. All right, so last step is setting the center guide. We have options. You can order it with a post mount bracket. There's spacers, so this is fully adjustable up and down. And then there's also our standard bracket, which you can wet set ankle bolts in this, or you can dry set and hammer drill holes in existing concrete and anchor that to an existing, just a 1/2 inch bit. Hammer drill that in there. And then I like to use is the threaded redhead anchor bolt. It's basically a concrete lag. So and that goes, it's already drilled and everything here, so you just run that in with a 3/4 inch impact. And then use this anchor that goes 3/4 inch hammer drill into the concrete. I'm not going to show that because this is my floor. I'd rather not put holes in that floor, but that obviously goes centered in the opening. This concludes our I-beam sliding door assembly video. Now you know how to assemble your own sliding door. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.